who might be interested in regional center projects versus investors who might be interested in starting their own business. So when you were talking about this, when you get an investor in the door, what's the process you go through with that investor in terms of, introducing them to EB-5 and what's the best fit for them?
Well, often an investor already knows what they want, but I would say 9 times out of 10, investors from Asia, especially India, come to us with an idea that they want to do their own investment. That they want to go out and they have an idea, a vague idea in their head, and they think that they can just put all these vague ideas in a business plan and submit it and then thereby get their EB-5. And we tell them, no, sadly, it doesn't work that way. You do actually, if you want to, for example, purchase Subway stores or some kind of McDonald's, you have to go out and physically get the leases or actually purchase them. You have to show that you have the franchise. You have to show that you are able to continue with the project as it's already started or is about to start, that it's basically what's called shovel ready. And then alongside all of that, they have to be very realistic, not only with the timeline of the project, but also with the job creation and the amount of money that they will require to sustain the business. Because no new business makes money immediately. It always takes 2 to 3 to 4 years before you ever see any money coming out of that business.
So when you're looking at direct investors, are they normally, have they already started their business, or are they sort of looking to you for direction in terms of, can I purchase a business? How far along in the process do I have to be?
I think the classic that all of you would probably set for Greg have, that somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm buying this hotel, it already has 25 jobs, I'm great. And we go, no, sorry. They have to be new jobs that you're creating. You can have those 25 jobs, but you have to have another 10 jobs on top of that. And there are a lot of mistakes out there, and unfortunately there are a lot of people who go through the process, suffer, spend the money, and then we get them much, much later when the mistakes are all made.
And part of what we see a lot is what you were talking about is somebody wanting to start a new business. We get clients in all the time with the idea that, okay, I'm going to invest and we'll maybe acquire a hotel. Hotel is always a good example. We also see a lot of where U.S. developers have contacts back in India or wherever they may be from, where they may be bringing investors over as direct investors. You're still going through the same sourcing of funds, you're still going through the same process, but it may be that you're not developing the project yourself. You're not having to run the project. You're not having to go chase the leases or do things like that, because there is a development and franchises ready. Once again, in the hotel business, whether it's a Marriott, Hilton, or whatever it may be. Those types of projects, while you're only going to get 2 or 3 or 4 investors because of job creation, it all depends on the developer and their cap stack and what they're looking for. But we do see where a lot of investors have connections back home or back to the United States or vice versa, where they're still getting the direct investment, but they're not having to necessarily be on the other side of that, where they're running it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So just to add to Rakesh, so we've been operating in India since 2014. I've probably sat through over 1,000 investor meetings, and we're probably going to hit about 100, actual EB-5 investors. And invariably, every single time that I meet the potential investors in India, the conversation always starts off, talking about direct EB-5. So then my question to them is always, what is it that you're looking to do in the US? What is your actual goal? Is it immigration? Is it business? Or is it both? And I think that's what sort of sets the direction for whatever conversation we're going to have down the road.
Something else I'd like to add to all of that. Again, it's an indication which is pro-regional center, but there is something that everybody who goes into a direct project should understand. Very frankly, the risks are higher. And one of the main reasons for that is that if you go into a regional center project, almost all regional centers will guarantee the return of your 500,000 if the 526, which is the initial petition, fails. If it's your project, that won't happen. You've lost your money, you have a business, hopefully it's successful, but it doesn't help for EB-5. And the second thing is when there's a pool project, and this says somebody like Rakesh mentioned, they're a developer here from India, they've got 3 or 4 people that they want to bring in as investors. Most of the time, they all come in with some kind of management in the corporate structure to avoid putting out a PPM. So the PPM is one of your offering documents, it's a securities document, and it really gives a lot of protection to the investor. On a regional centre project, it's almost mandatory to have a PPM, which you don't necessarily need with a direct project.
So, looking at regional centers, you've gone through the process, everyone, you have a client come in, you've talked to them, you've counseled them, you've decided, it's really not the best way to go in terms of me doing my own entrepreneurial investment. So then, okay, I want to do a regional center-based investment. There are how many regional centers now out there? 800 something. So when you're talking to investors, how do you help them to narrow down the project in which they will invest? I'll throw it out there, Rakesh. What do you think? It's a common question, but not always a great answer.
Yeah, it is a very common question. I think it's really important to understand the client. As Vivek was saying, is what's your intention? What is your familiarity with? Regional center projects, you could be in a dairy farm, or you could be in a hotel, or you could be on a daycare. It just depends on what their interests are, because you want to find some common ground, familiarity with them. I always tell the investors, from my perspective, I can't advise you where to invest. Number one, we're not allowed to, or nor do we want to say, go invest here. But you do want to tell them the proper channels to go through to do some due diligence, make introductions to people that that have a good history. And then from there, the regional centers are always willing to talk to the investor about, okay, this is who we are, this is what we're offering. But you really, from my perspective, when I'm sitting down with clients, I really want to get to know them and really get their objectives before we even go down the path of recommending which regional center or where to go, because most of the clients come in with an idea of what industries they think are the most successful. That may not always be true. So that's typically the process by which I go.
One more thing to add also to all of that is the fact that right now the minimum amount is 500,000. Doing a direct project at 500,000, of course you can do that, but it is not going to be successful on the main basis that for 10 direct jobs, and if you take, for example, in New York, where the minimum wage is now $15 an hour, 500,000 doesn't even get you past your payroll past the second year. So it's unlikely that if you only have 500,000 that you would really successfully be able to get your project off the ground.
And I think the EB-5 experience tends to be very heavily generated by referrals. Their friend did it, so they're locked into some concept of which project, which type of asset, which structure that their friend did, because they trust their friend more than many of those of us who participate in the market, just because they're less familiar with us. So I think it takes a conversation, as Rakesh mentions, to find out what their needs and wants are, and separating the immigration from the actual investment, I think is very important, because all of their capital, whether they do direct or EB-5, is at risk. So it's important to understand that.
And that's a really key point to hone in on here. So you may have an investor who you know is going to do a regional center-based investment, and they may say, hey, where do I invest? Tell me, what projects do you recommend? So because there's a securities component, this is an investment. You are offering a security. We cannot, as immigration attorneys, give advice on what type of investment to make. So you cannot provide people with advice on what is the best investment. So when I have a client that comes to meet with me and wants to invest in a regional center, I say, hey, what I can do for you is I can review project documents for immigration compliance. I can help you to suss out any immigration issues. I can also even tell you some things like, what regional centers have a good track record in terms of I-526 and 829 approvals. How many of them have been able to repay their loans at the end of the day. How many of them may actually have an I-924 approved project? I can tell them things like that and sort of help them along the way, but we can't actually give them investment advice.
Well, there is a slight exception to that, Crystal.
Sure.
If during the course of your business you are able to certainly give advice, you can. It's got to be go through the course of the business. So, for example, if Minamea did all the project documents for 3 or 4 projects and they thought, this is phenomenal, I really like this, then there is nothing wrong with Minamea saying to their clients, this is not investment advice, but this is what we like about this project.
Correct.
Well, and also, just to add to that a little bit, so, you obviously have 2 components to an EB-5. There's the immigration component and there's the investment component. So to deal with the immigration component, you obviously hire, competent immigration counsel. For the investment piece, we're in the fortunate position to be affiliated with a broker-dealer. So we are in that position where we have access to multiple regional centers, multiple projects. We've done our due diligence, and we feel that these certain, 3 or 4 or 5 projects might be, really strong from a financial perspective, from a compliance perspective, and obviously, for the immigration lawyers and immigration perspective. So I think the resources are there. People should definitely sort of equip themselves with those resources and then make this, a life-changing decision. And it is a lot of money. It's $500,000 plus costs and fees. So I think it just makes a lot of sense for them to avail those resources that are in the market and make sure that they make a fully informed decision, both from an immigration perspective as well as an investment perspective.
Oh, absolutely. And oftentimes when I'm talking to these clients, I also try and give them a list of due diligence questions that you might ask a regional center, because they say, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what to ask them. So, Greg, what do those questions look like? What type of inquiries do you commonly get?
Well, I mean,
what are good questions to ask?
What are good questions to ask? When will I get my money back? Yeah, that's a pretty popular one. How do you create the jobs? So you have to go through your job creation methodology, and who is the economist that you're using, and what experience you have with that particular company. A lot of people do ask questions of the flow of money. How does it work? And real money questions as it relates to risk, process, and success at each milestone along the way. And many investors really need to understand better the actual sequence of events, forgetting about the money or the timing of the return of the money or whatever. They need to understand the program, and sometimes they're not getting a lot of that advice on the front end before you meet them. So you have to go through that.
So I think we're almost out of time here, guys. Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I would like to point out one thing, because we deal a lot with this market. Many people want to emigrate. There are 2 types of really EB-5 petitions that really come out of India. One is for the student and the family and the parents who stay back here and they have no intention of coming to the United States. For that type of person, regional center really it's a no-brainer to do a regional center investment. Then there is a second type of investor who wants to move with their entire family. Now, they don't have an awful lot of money. They may have like $1 million or $1.5 million, but they aren't able to put $500,000-600,000 in a passive investment for 7 to 8 years. They really want that money to work for them, and they're ready to put more than $500,000. Those usually are the ones who only want to do a direct sort of procedure. I do caution, because there are many successful direct projects, but they do have to be handled very carefully from the very beginning.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I think that as investors or people in the room that know investors that are looking to invest, I mean, one of the key things that I would want you to take away from this is really advising them and understanding where they're coming from and what their needs are. You can get a green card direct or indirect. It's possible. There's going to be pitfalls on both sides, but from the beginning, the proper advice, the proper resources, as Vivek was saying, you have to have that, and it's very important that you advise the people that you're talking to that you have to go reach the proper people, including immigration attorneys and advisors, before they make that investment, make that leap.
So I think the basic takeaway here is keep in mind that despite all of the things floating around, the main difference, really the only difference between direct and regional center-based investments in terms of actual evidence is job creation. That's the big thing. The rest hinges on what does the investor want? What does the investor need? Is this a businessman who wants to come here and be successful and run his own business and maybe getting a green card is secondary? Or is this someone who all they really want is to come here and have their kids go to school here and have some sort of, not assurance is the wrong word, but be reasonably assured that they are investing with a good project at least, and that they have some ability to get their money back at the end of the day and to likely get a green card at the end of the day. So it's really about knowing your client. So I think that's the main takeaway. So we have 30 seconds. Should anyone have any questions, we would all be happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you very much for being here.
Hi.
Please.
Sorry, there are a list of questions here. I was just checking if the last one, does the money have to be wired right away? Was that discussed?
No, it doesn't. That's one of the differences between a regional centre and a direct, actually. You can do a successful direct by partially starting the project as long as you can show it's all there, but you have to show that you are actively in the process of investing. And when you file your initial petition, it has to be very, very clear that the rest of the money is on its way, and it's coming, and it's already been sort of potholed as to what you're going to utilize that money for.
So I think the most conservative approach, and Mona will probably agree with me, is she's absolutely right. You can be in the process of investing, which is not really a defined term in EB-5. So it's hard to show that your money is committed and going to come forward in the future. So probably the most conservative is to make the investment and then file. But not necessarily a legal requirement, more of a practical requirement. Anything else? Okay, thank you again.